You're like
What?
Avatar Blue.
Yeah, I gotta fix that. But we're actually live, and unfortunately, the Sharks are a little bit blue as well. Um, they get a 4-0 drubbing. Um, and just honestly, just really off today. And count the today's counter started getting on. But yeah, I'm joined by Al Martinet. Al, I mean, I look like a Smurf, and I'm kind of blue about the Sharks' performance. What says you?
We'll just call it a color template. You're just going with. God, this is one of the most embarrassing performances of the season. Com- Considering that Columbus traded away one of their, or just got a trade, but not playing with all the lines together. I'm not too sure what's going on with the Sharks, but um, especially when considering that they're going to play another game tomorrow. That might be another loss in the books, but that's just looking ahead.
Okay, much better. Now I look semi-normal. um,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Go from freaking Avatar blue or Smurf blue to my normal skin color. More shades of DW than of Papa Smurf. But yeah, I mean, honestly, it was really a game to forget. Sharks looked sloppy all day today. Could not complete a pass for the life of them, could not get through the neutral zone cleanly, getting stood up on the blue line by Columbus's defense. And, it just really just off and not looking great. And to me, just outplayed in every facet of the game. I mean, I think that this had more to do with the Sharks not showing up than Columbus playing well. What says you, Al?
That's about the same. In the first period, there was a shot by Timo where he was like right in up front of the net, wide open, and he just missed it by a mile. Um, the legs just weren't with the Sharks the entire three periods. I don't know when they got into Columbus, but it's really bad performance. Just Columbus was outskating the Sharks. Speed is somewhat of an issue, considering that we do have like a lot of older guys, but not this much of an issue. We should be able to skate one or two periods. First two lines shouldn't have this much of an issue.
Well, I agree. I think that we really need to work out these issues. And this afternoon, if you're joining us and you want to be a part of the show and kind of chime in on what you think the issues are, you know, use the Twitter hashtag Tealtown USA and follow us on Twitter at Tealtown USA. Of course, you can reach us using the Facebook messaging. You can DM us, slide into those DMs, or use the use the regular old Twitter at me, Instagram, SoundCloud, and of course the YouTube chat. We're taking a look at that too. We want to welcome everybody who has decided to tune in this afternoon, and we really appreciate it. So in that first period, as Al was kind of going through, the Sharks maybe in that first 10 minutes looked like they pressed, and then for whatever reason kind of fell flat. The passes were not being completed all that greatly, in the first period and first 10 minutes, but at least that they were, kind of going to the net and being hard to the net, but it kind of just fell off from there.
Yeah.
And really the tide turned after that Boone Jenner goal, his 11th of the season, 9 minutes into the first period, assists by Anderson. And from there, I mean, it just was the goalie Bob show, just stopping a lot of what the Sharks were putting on net. And quite frankly, just not, just completely off.
I thought Bobrovsky did a really good job, but at the same time, I thought the Sharks didn't really give him a lot of great chances. A lot of scrambles in front of the nets. I guess you would have called those one or two shots, but at the same time, like I just didn't think they were consistent. They didn't really apply pressure. I'm trying to look up how many shots the Sharks had and Columbus had, but it felt like Columbus had 3 times as many shots.
So in that first period, the shots were 9-7 in favor of the Sharks, believe it or not. Um, Jerry
Didn't
with
know.
yeah, Jerry with the comment of
Okay,
the
so
chat so far. Was there a Drake concert in Columbus last night?
oh god. So the shots on goal were 26, Sharks, Columbus 26. No way that's the case. No way that's the case.
Yeah, it sure didn't feel like that. And I mean, honestly, uh, just going into that first period, you thought, okay, it's 1-0, not too bad. The Sharks kind of squandered one of their power plays, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been. And then in the second period, Matt Duchene, 59 seconds into the second period, gets his
Yep.
28th from Cam Atkinson and Panarin. And then, really, what the backbreaker goal was that power play goal, 1952 into the second. Also, halfway into the second, we saw Eric Carlson not skating with the team any longer. It looked like he went back to the bench. We think it might have been an aggravation of that groin injury. Not really heard too much as far as injury updates are concerned. The other thing that's a little concerning too was Marcus Sorensen taking the puck to the chin. He would go directly to the dressing room and not return. So,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you just got to wonder, what's going on, and with the injuries. The Sharks, of course, notorious for being tight-lipped, but I mean, it's a little concerning.
Just like every team, they're always tight-lipped about their star player, but this is his 4th game back, but you would figure he'd be a little bit more consistent. Um, one of the big things with this game was that the Sharks gave it away a bunch in the second period, especially Brent Burns.
Yeah, the giveaways tonight were 11-6 in favor of the Sharks, and the blocks were 11 for the Sharks. Well, why don't we just go down the stat line? 26 shots on goal, 51% in the faceoff, 0 for 2 on the power play, 15 hits, 11 blocks, 11 giveaways. Over on the Blue Jackets side, 26 shots on goal, 49% in the faceoff, power plays 1 for 2, hits 24, blocks 6, giveaways 6. And I mean, that PK is also kind of starting to scare me a little bit. It looks like, it looked like they were really kind of on a roll. Maybe they were kind of getting through a little bit of their doldrums, but man, tonight was just not great. There were, especially on that second power play, they were allowing a lot of cross ice passes. It just, we're not protecting the front of the net. Did you see anything on that power play goal, Al?
I need to look back out on it again, but it just seemed like the passing was more crisp on Columbus's side, and I really did like how Columbus was shooting towards the net and then feeding off the rebounds. I The rebound control was more the issue on Martin Jones' end. I thought the penalty kill was pretty decent, but with that saying, they have given up, penalty goals 6 out of the last 8. So something does need to happen.
Yeah. No, and I totally in agreement there. Haley was the one that crashed the net that caused
Ugh.
that uh, goalie interference penalty, and that's basically what the penalty was. And you kind of got to wonder. Yes, Haley is in there to be a deterrent, but I don't see why you play him against a speedy lineup like this. I feel like Lukas Radil would have been a better choice for today's game, and even for the Detroit game. I mean, the only time that I would really play Haley is in a divisional game, or a game with another heavy hitter. And right now, I mean, that's kind of a questionable lineup decision in on my perspective. What about you, Al?
I mean, it was already questionable, getting him from a waiver wire, but with EK not probably going to be out for the next couple of games, at least you have to think it's an aggravated injury. He's probably going to start in place of EK, so that means Gambrell is probably going to come in that spot. So maybe it works out in the favor because EK is not playing as many games as we expected, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, I mean, I was also thinking about that too. I feel like, that actually might not be a bad thing in regards to his contract because he has not really shown a lot of durability throughout his career. He's always kind of been a player that has had injury problems before. And I'm wondering if maybe, other teams will look at that and say, well, I don't know if that is really what we want right now. For a team to go out and sign an injury prone player. So maybe that's a kind of a blessing in disguise, and maybe it's maybe it'll help in the negotiation front. But getting back
Yeah.
to the game in that third period, I mean, there really wasn't much. It was kind of garbage time hockey at this point. 6 minutes in, Pierre-Luc Dubois with his 23rd goal. Kukin and Bjorkstrand with the assists there. Sergei Bobrovsky would go on to record the shutout. That would be his second shutout in back-to-backs. That's the first time in Columbus Blue Jacket history that has happened. And of course, the Sharks are on the wrong side of history again. So,
Yay, progress.
right? Um, yeah, I don't really know what more to say, besides the things that we have kind of commented on. I don't feel like the team is, I don't feel like the team really got up for this game. And I don't know if that was just because of a fatigue issue or if it was, really because they, just didn't have it tonight. So,
Yeah.
just disappointing loss. And I mean, I'm going to pose this question to you. Do you think that the Sharks have just given away their ability to take first in the Pacific Division?
I think it's too early to say that, but I think if I was the Sharks, I'd rather be in Vegas position. You're 7 or 8 points above the wild card. You can rest players. You don't have to, be in this race, quote unquote, with Calgary. I don't think it really does matter who's second or first. You're still gonna have to be in the playoffs. You're still gonna have to go through the rounds. I don't think anyone in the locker room cares if you win the West. We know what happens. We've seen that happen. You lose the President's Trophy, you lose in the first round. I would rather be in the Vegas position. Give me if honestly, if they rest Jones for 4 games and he comes back and he's healthy, I'd rather have that more.
So here is Kevin Kurz with a quick update. No noticeable limp on Eric Carlson as he walked to the bus for what it's worth. So I think, I think that that's a good thing, but I also am concerned about what exactly it is.
Yeah. I don't know.
So,
Yeah.
Peter Bohr confirmed that Eric Carlson retweaked his groin. No timetable on his return.
That's not good.
Yep. So, what do the Sharks do? And do you blame that on goaltending? Do you just blame that on the Sharks just not showing up? I mean, goaltending tonight, not great. The Sharks go, let me look at this correctly,
S- s-
17 for 20. Um,
Dell went 3 for 3, but
yeah, so actually 19 of 23. It's save percentage of 826. And you gotta wonder, do you think, do we think that there might be something in the works cooking for a goaltender? Um, I don't know if you really want to spend the assets for a goalie. I personally wouldn't. I would love to see um Cornash get called up. I'm not really going to rail on the goaltending because I don't think tonight's performance was really indicative of how the goaltending played. I think this was more on the team. Although, I mean, you look at it, and Jones is not having a great year. I mean, 897 save percentage, 2.92 goals against.
yeah.
And I think that that's a reflection of both his play and I think of the players in front of him as well. I just I just see a goaltender right now that it's lacking in confidence. He's not really owning the blue paint, not really pushing a lot of people in front of him. Before it looked like he really was kind of aggressive, like to make sure he could see the shot, front the shot well. You know, I just don't see that player right now. And not to say that he hasn't made some good plays, and not to say that he hasn't made, has put together some strong games. But I think overall, just the entire year just has not been consistent. And what are you seeing from the goaltending now?
I've liked Jones. See, it's weird because I agree with a lot of your points, but at the same time, like the pressure, offensive pressure this season has been incredibly great. The Canada trip, all 5 teams we've won against, the offense was great. But that's when the turnovers, the giveaways were cut down. And when it was the reverse, like today's game, where you see 11 turnovers, sometimes 12 or 13, that's when Jones gains trouble and he starts to crumble under the pressure, which is not the best attribute for a goaltender, which is your job. So I do think they really need to get some speed on the third and fourth lines. Um, but then again, I don't know what you do with Joe Thorin though, because he's never gonna. You can't reverse age because he's still always gonna be slow. I don't know what you do with Joe. That's the question. Um,
So you think that tonight's performance was indicative more about speed than about
Pretty much. I mean, in the transition game, they had the better opportunities. I think the first and potentially, oh yeah, the first, the last goal, the fourth goal, the one that got Jones pulled was definitely on Jones. But like after a while, if your offense is not giving you breaks, it's not giving you time to rest up, and I do think there just needs to be more speed on the ice, and I think Gambrell can definitely supply that without making a huge, cost for a rental. Um, Question is like, who are you going to get for that? You know, I like what EK has done when he's been healthy, but like, I don't think you should give him a long term contract because that's Burns, Vlasic, all with 8 million, and then you're going to give EK with potentially 9 or 10 on your back end. I don't think that works in today's NHL. And I get we want to play for the playoffs, but I just don't see that's how that's going to work out.
yeah. I tend to agree. You're going to have 2, 3 really big contracts on the blue line. However, the flip side of that is the Sharks are scoring at an incredible clip this year, and that's not only been the emergence of Tomas Hertl, Timo Meyer, Logan Couture, but I also think that it has a lot to do with the playmaking from the back end. And I think that it's kind of a double-edged sword. I think the Sharks have definitely more mobile of a defense. I think they just got such a great, just such a great turnover with Burns and with Vlasic and Carlson.
Yep.
I just feel like there's always a grouping of defensemen that's going to be really elite on the ice. So, I think that having him around is a good thing. But I see what you're saying. There's a lot of money tied up on defense for sure. Um, Steve Cropper, the Jackets do this to us a lot, and we do not match up against them well. I totally agree, and I feel like the Sharks for the last few years have not played well in Columbus at all. I don't know what exactly it is, but we all kind of remarked tonight about there it is. We all remarked today about the ice and just how a lot of people were slipping and sliding, and just didn't really look too crisp. So, I know that we really lament about ice at SAP Center, but tonight the ice just not great. Up, thank you, puck guy, for tonight today too. Yeah, and to me, the ice surface today was just not great. I mean, it wasn't Florida Panthers next level slop, but it definitely looked soft. And we know that the Sharks, for whatever reason, are very susceptible to issues with ice. We've seen it time and time again, where if the ice is not great, they don't play great. So, and Steve, you're exactly right. Same ice for both teams, though, and that is true. For whatever reason, though, I've just always noticed that the Sharks just just don't. Yeah, I don't know. They just don't execute when the ice is really soft, and I don't know what that is. If that's a mental thing because they're afraid of skates giving out or something. I'm just not sure, but whatever it is, I mean, they really do need to figure it out. They've got they have the ability to come back tomorrow and put some pressure on Calgary. But again, now the Sharks are down 3 points in the Pacific, and they've played one more game than Calgary. So you've got to make up that game somewhere. Do we got to, do you really have to kind of hope that Calgary loses a couple in a row and the Sharks can bounce back? So that's kind of the unfortunate deal that we're looking at here. And that's kind of why I posed the question to everybody. Do we think that the Sharks have kind of let first place in the division slip away? That's what I'm concerned about. I think that that's what I'm most concerned about, but I also think that it's good to have the pressure of getting first place to make sure that the Sharks don't fall asleep, because we've also seen them kind of sleepwalk into the playoffs before, holding down that first in the Pacific Division and just really kind of resting on their laurels and getting whooped in the first round. So that's kind of the double-edged sword there. So we're going to look a little bit ahead to tomorrow's matchup. The Sharks will take on the Detroit Red Wings at 12 p.m. noon Pacific Standard Time. And the Sharks, look to have a bounce back game. It's also going to be the first time that we're going to get to see Little Caesars Arena, and that will be pretty cool. The pie box, pizza pie box, as a maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Detroit, I mean, Joe Louis Arena was just such an iconic building. It's one of the buildings that I always remembered having those really low hanging rafters, and just kind of being the old school stadium. And so it'll be interesting to see what the new concept of Little Caesars is. And I from what I hear, it's just an awesome facility. And we're talking about the Detroit Red Wings, Al. Any thoughts going into tomorrow's game, and what do you look for from the Sharks?
Detroit's supposed to be sellers at the trade deadline. I think they already made a trade with Washington. I hopefully I expect Dell to start. I expect Jones to get at least a day or two as a rest. Um, Also, I expect Gambrell to be called up because obviously you're going to have a couple people maybe trying to get some rest or maybe injured. I'm kind of interested to find out more about Kane. He didn't do practice before the game, and he also had that almost nasty hit on the boards in the first or second period.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a really good point. I didn't think about, how Evander Kane is doing. So that's going to be, it's going to be interesting to see. And Rob is screaming in the chat, sit Donskoy. And
No,
you know, I think he's the playmaking engine on that line. And to be honest with you, I think he's been really shifty in the offensive zone. I don't think Donskoy is the problem. I honestly think that it's going to be that third and fourth lines, exactly like Al was saying. And I think that the Sharks, really need to look into some kind of third line center. We do have a trade to announce. It looks like Zuccarello traded to Dallas, and then
or
let's see. It said that somebody else. There was another trade. Um, I'm not exactly sure
they
where.
should.
Oh,
They
we're
should.
Dezingle reportedly trade to Columbus. Puck Guy is going to get us some more information on that. But Al, what are you thinking?
Um, if he's getting traded to Columbus, that's kind of interesting because I think if Columbus stays put with the current star that they have, I don't think they really need to make any major moves. I think they're built for both regular season and playoffs. Um, if if Bergon leaves for free agency, if Bobrovsky leaves for free agency, that's part of the game. And I think if they probably take a risk, that's more of the risk. I think I'd rather have those two players going into the playoffs than guaranteed B stars that you're not going to you're not going to win your first round.
Here we go. DeBoer, when asked if he's concerned about 65 after they were cautious with the injury, he says, absolutely. I thought we were as conservative and cautious as you can be, but muscle injuries, you don't know. Sometimes you get into position or overextend it. We'll see where he's at tomorrow. That from Kevin Kurz, so not great news right there. Matt Zuccarello from New York Rangers to Go Stars is for 2 conditional draft picks. Thank you, Hockey Jerk. It looks like Stars get forward. No, Ben Lovejoy is a defenseman. And Connor Carrick from, okay, so Stars get Lovejoy, Devils get Connor Carrick, and a 2019 third rounder.
Hi guys. The Zingle per Bob McKenzie and Bruce Garrioch is Columbus's second in 2020 and 2021, along with Anthony Duclair for Dezingle, and Calgary's 7th goes to Columbus. And then once that deal was done, it started moving. So Zuccarello, you just mentioned it's 2 conditional picks. Haven't heard that one completely set, but Rangers are sitting out their big 3, and one of them just got traded.
Yeah, I think Kevin Hayes is still on the board for New York. I think we're also waiting to see if the Mark Stone shoe is going to drop. I believe there are some players out of Detroit, Jimmy Howard and Gustav Nyquist, I believe, is on the trade block from what I heard. Yeah, I mean, Dezingle was also another big piece that Ottawa was looking to cash in on. I think who was the other piece from Ottawa? It was Dezingle, well, Duchesne, of course, and Stone.
Stone.
Yeah. So those were their big 3. So 2 out of the 3 are gone there. So you got to wonder. I am probably of the opinion that Mark Stone is probably not going to be an Ottawa Senator come Monday afternoon. What says you, Puckeye?
Yeah, it's not looking good. Although haven't heard much about his contract talks. It's interesting to see what happens there. Pretty much now, Stone is like the big remaining piece out on the market, which is plays right into Ottawa, where they got a great haul for Duchesne. Now they have Stone. I mean, and Rob Iman, Factor Fiction, Mark Stone traded to Winnipeg. I wouldn't be surprised. If I'm not mistaken, he's from Manitoba, so that would be interesting. Steve Cropper, after this lackluster performance, do you think DW is open to trades now? Yeah, but remember, they have very limited assets that they can move right now. If you're talking like a goaltender, what are you going to do? That means there has to be a corresponding move with Dell in that reserve.
Factor Fiction, Mark Stone is traded to Winnipeg. I heard Winnipeg is very hot on the heels for Mark Stone. Calgary is the other one that is also really, really hot on the heels for Mark Stone. You also heard Vegas potentially sniffing around there. Those were the big 3 that I've heard. You've also got to wonder about, your friend and mine, Wayne Simmons, former LA King. And, where is, he going to end up? The talk and consensus is that DW has been sniffing around him. But, of course, the Sharks are very, very low as far as, as far as assets they have available to trade. I think that the prevailing wisdom is that Tampa Bay is going to be the people that, might pick him up. There's also the Islanders that are lurking around, and you got to wonder, what Lou is going to do, because, Uncle Lou doesn't stand pat very often on the trade deadline day, does he?
I see more Wayne Simmons going to Nashville. I think his game suits that team. They have more of a
I,
hybrid offense.
I heard Kevin Hayes was more on their list, though. They have really focused in on centers out of Nashville.
Yep.
The picks going back for Zuccarello are a conditional second and third. Going back to the Rangers, that's pretty cheap, actually, guys.
Yeah, it's interesting because Brian Boyle fetched a second himself, and Matt Zuccarello, last time I checked, was a better player than Brian Boyle. Brian Boyle got a ton of heart, of course, but not really the offensive force that Matt Zuccarello is. Kevin Hayes, again, I keep coming back to Kevin Hayes because after Mark Stone, he's like, and Matt Duchene, he was kind of a big piece. And do you guys see where he might land?
Kevin Hayes. I need to look at his contract, but he'd be a pretty good fit for Dallas. They need another winger.
It's
I
got
think,
one now.
yeah. So, yeah, like that would be my fit. But like, Dallas, I think, is a really interesting team because if they get just decent goaltending and maybe one or two solid lines, I think they could slide into the last wild card. They got all the talent. I think they're one of those teams you have to watch out for. And also,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think the other guy that we're also missing here is Marcus Johansson. He was a guy that, again, the Sharks were sniffing around, and I think if the Sharks do anything, it will really be one of those last second deals where you get it underneath the deadline, and it's bargain basement prices, everything must go kind of a thing, because like I said before, the assets, the Sharks just don't have any assets, right? And the assets that they do have, whether that's Chekovich or Chmelevski or Gambrell or Merkley, I don't think you touch any of those players. And why would you? Maybe if you could really wow somebody with Jeremy Waugh's potential, he might be a player you could deal. Um, you know, there's Francis Perron, who's been put together a nice little season for the Barracuda, who could also be, a trade piece potentially. So, right now, I mean, just the capital that the Sharks have is just not there.
Yeah.
do you see the Sharks trading within their division at all?
Well, I mean, I heard rumblings of Ilya Kovalchuk in the Sharks, perhaps reuniting, or not reuniting, but consummating something to get him to San Jose. I know the Sharks were in on him in the offseason. And so what the Sharks could do is be like, hey, we'll take this bad contract off your hands, and you give us bargain basement prices. And that's what the kind of move that I could see DW going for.
The player? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. No.
I was like, the player I would kind of want to get from the Kings is Tyler Toffoli. I think for a second round, but I think that's second round. You're probably gonna have to give up probably someone like LeBanc, maybe Gambrell. You probably have to toss in those two. I could see that working. He's a decent shooter, has decent speed. I've always kind of liked his game, but I'm always cautious about trading within your division because you're essentially giving things to your opponent you're going to see 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah.
Rob Iman in the chat saying, I think the Sharks should go after Keith Kincaid on the cheap. look, why spend the assets to get something that you already have, right? I mean, if honestly, I think if you were going to do something, it would either bring up Bebo or bring up Cornash. What are you thinking there, Eric?
Yeah, I can't see them making a move like that. It would have to be if it's going to be a goaltender, it's going to be something noteworthy, like we saw with Reimer back in 2016. We've heard some of the rumors. I don't think there's much to them, honestly. As Dell's going to get the start tomorrow against Detroit. I think that's kind of a showcase game, and that's kind of the don't tell me, show me that you are capable of it. We could see that happening tomorrow. A couple of things, guys, as you guys were throwing out names. Marcus Johansson was held out of the game for the New Jersey today. He's got a $4.5 million cap hit. He's a UFA at the end after the season. Hayes from the Rangers is at 5.1 mil. Tyler Toffoli is 4.6. He still has another year after this season, and then he's a UFA. And then Kovalchuk is at 6.25 with under contract after 2 more years after this season. So again, you're also looking at that as not quite a rental. You would have to require them the team that you're calling to retain salary in order for this to work, or a big piece is going back the other way. And I can't see them. I can't see the Sharks doing too much unless it's going to involve like maybe Donskoy and somebody that has a decent amount of money on their cap.
Yeah, and maybe some retained salary there, and like a Melker Carlson, something like that. But what about dangling a player like Alex True? He's a player that's come on this season for the Barracuda and could be a potential, like a Rudolph Spalsers, where he just kind of comes out of nowhere and is able to be thrown into a package to get something done.
It's possible.
Anything is possible.
I mean, seriously, the jeez. Now I'm just picturing Alex as a Lego version of himself right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I thought that's what you're going with the song. Anything is possible, or that's possible. Everything is awesome. My bad. But you're right. Anything is possible because what do we see? We saw Pix and Danny O'Regan go back to Buffalo for Evander Kane. So
yeah, and of course, I mean, Evander Kane's kind of being sold under the distressed asset tag. So,
yes.
And look how well that's worked out for the
Sharks.
Sharks.
Right, exactly. So, is there a player that you could snag? That is a quote unquote distressed asset that you could get on the cheap. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, Alex Chason, or Zach Cassian. I think Zach Cassian would be an interesting player to add. He adds some size. He's not slow. And he's kind of been a thorn in our sides, and he's definitely a playoff type player. I remember him putting up really good numbers against the Sharks in that playoff round against Edmonton. So is that a guy that you might take a look at? I'm just going around right now and looking at the standings on who exactly is going to be the defined marker of buyers and sellers. And it's a little difficult right now because the West is still really really log jammed. I think that there's a lot of teams that kind of are in that middle ground of, okay, we don't necessarily want to add, but we don't necessarily want to subtract either.
Justin Falk might be another issue, or might be another person we look at, but he has another 2 years after his contract. It's $6 million. That's another long-term investment. That kind of puts you out of the race for Erik Karlsson. God, that just anyone that's good has at least a 2-year or 1-year contract going ahead. And I think whatever Doug Wilson does is going to impact what we do with Erik Karlsson.
Yeah, I really see the fit for the Sharks either being Marcus Johansson or Wayne Simmons if that's going to be the deal. And I think that that's kind of the player that you're looking for, kind of a little bit more of that power forward, kind of two-way forward with some grit snarl. That's what I see the Sharks needing to kind of pick up. But I think really at this point it's just all going to be about what the prices are going to be. And if the prices are really inflated or if they're not, I think another guy that'd be interesting to me would be Franz Nielsen or Thomas Vanek. Those are some guys that might be interesting players to have. Justin Applicator doesn't really excite me all that much. I'm just looking at their players. Not great. Maybe over in Florida.
Yeah, Mike Hoffman's available.
Right?
That's not happening, folks. Let's clear that right out of the bat there.
Dave B. Pilot is Nyquist is a forward, but goaltending is the glaring issue. Again, I think goaltending comes from our from our farm and our stock, because you've got two goaltenders that are just playing out of their minds right now. Jonathan Huberdeau was supposed to be on the block, and I don't know what exactly it would take to get him, but it's definitely going to be at least a couple of prospects and one roster player. Wouldn't surprise me. Frank Vetrano, I don't see them getting rid of that.
I think it's going to be a quieter trade deadline than years past. I think the CBA is getting better between players and owners, and the way owners have negotiated with players with 7 or 8 year deals, it's kind of quieted the trade market. I don't think there's going to be a Kane deal for the Sharks this time around, but I think maybe just getting past the trade deadline is probably going to be the best thing. We see that a lot. Once the 28th comes around, teams starting to relax about actually being on the team and not being traded away. Maybe that might be the best addition, not doing anything.
Yeah, that's a great point. Especially for a player like LeBanc. Excuse me, who thinks that oof. Oh my goodness.
Wait.
2 minutes in the box for Landy.
Yeah, exactly.
In case you didn't tell how this game reacted, Landy just did it for us.
Yeah, exactly. But I think I would be really, really careful with a Wayne Simmons move. His underlying stats are not great this year. And yeah, I think he's a little bit of fool's gold. Races Fan Rocks 4. How about Kevin Hayes or Kevin Miller? Either of those are good names to have. I personally would love to see the Sharks go out and get Kevin Hayes. And the reason why I say that is because he's another center. You can never have enough centers along with defensemen. And, that would be something that I would be looking for.
Let's do this. Over under Haley plays 15 more games with the Sharks this season.
Over.
I hate to say it, but over.
God. Under.
Really, huh?
If he makes bonehead moves the way he did in the second period, I just don't see him being. I hope, let's put it this way. I hope, but you never know what PDB does.
You know who might be an interesting guy now that I'm looking at it? And I wonder if DW might cook up something, because he does have a history of trading with Shiro. Is Travis Zajac. I'm wondering if a player like Travis Zajac, who's got some connections with Peter DeBoer, he's kind of in that mold of like Dinas Zubaris. I'm wondering if maybe a guy like that would be what the Sharks are looking for. What says you guys?
Let's trade for Taylor Hall. How about that? Let's just trade.
Yeah, straight up one for one with Kevin LeBanc, right?
No, straight up for Tim Heed. Isn't that how is like the equal value for that? I mean, come on.
Yeah,
Now.
or I mean, that I guess if you're Peter Chiarelli,
Sorry, that's the first name I thought about.
right?
Oh, jeez. Rocket. Yes. Nah, F it. Let's get McDavid. There we go. You want to see Jaws drop like you haven't seen since the Jumbo trade? That goes down.
Yeah, and you know what? Edmonton just might be stupid enough to do it.
Hey,
LeBanc, Donskoy, and Melker, and 2 seconds for McDavid.
someone clip that out if that actually is the exact trade.
If that's the case, that like completely owns all of Ian, Kevin, and Jerk's four scenes ever.
Yep.
Sure.
Rob Iman saying maybe Zajac on the waiver wire. Yeah, I think if the Sharks could get a Travis Zajac on the waiver wire, that might be a good move. I don't know. I mean, is there a KHL player that we could sign, that wouldn't require something, kind of like what the big Russian fella Radulov did.
Oh, Radulov.
You know how he came back for that playoff run with Nashville.
Oh yeah, that's true. I
don't know, something really out of the box though.
It's gonna be interesting to see the next 48 hours. I mean, yes, a lot of big pieces that have been talked about are off the board, but and also to talk about how this next game tomorrow in Detroit will come down. What happens there in regards to does Dell start? Is anybody going to sit out? EK65, yeah, he tweaked his groin. Now it's going to happen. Sorensen, we don't know what his stat. I'm sorry. PDB's already said that he's day to day. So,
whatever that means.
Wait. And Eric Carlson is hour to hour. All right. Sounds good.
Millisecond to millisecond.
Yeah. Jerry F saying if DW can pull McDavid, he should be canonized. I agree. I definitely agree. But it is time for your favorite segment and mine, the NHL reach around.
I could have had it queued up for you. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's wraparound.
So going out to a Central Division matchup, the Avalanche put a whooping on the Predators 5-0. And don't look now, but the Predators are kind of going into a spiral, playing some really uninspired hockey right now. And yeah, not looking great for the Predators at the moment. The Canadians and the Maple Leafs are in a tilt in the second period, 3-1 for the Canadians. Original 6 Canadian teams. That's always a great showing. The Penguins and Flyers kicking off the Stadium Series game. It's 1-1, 6 minutes, 20 seconds left in the first period. Islanders and Canucks will be your nightcap tonight, along with Ducks and Oilers. La Sabras beat the Capitals 5-2. Rangers beat the Devils 5-2. Blues beat the Bruins 2-1 in a shootout. And don't look now, but the Blues are hot as the sun. Hurricanes beating up on the Stars 3-0. Did we get a celebration this game, guys? Anybody know what the shenanigans were?
No, that game was on the road despite the Hurricanes wearing their red jerseys tonight.
They had their fathers with them. So
you know what though? If they would have done a celebration on the ice in an opponent's arena, that would be some real big balls. So I think that they should do that, but that's just me. The Kings, I mean, it looks like the Kings are trying to go with for a combination of Kopitar and Jack Hughes. They lose 6-1 tonight against the Florida Panthers. And of course, the craptastic game that we all saw, the 4-0 drubbing of the Sharks against the Blue Jackets. So, like we said, tomorrow will be, I guess, a really interesting day leading up into the trade deadline. We've also got a Sharks game at 12 p.m. noon Pacific Standard Time, and we'll see what the Sharks come back with. I will be interested to see what kind of effort they put out and exactly which team we are going to see. Al, what's your final thoughts for today and where the people can find you?
Final thoughts. In general, I hope the Sharks get off to a better start tomorrow. Drink some more coffee. How about that? But in general, you can see me on Twitter at @AlmarnA. Free to chat hockey there. Yeah, not the greatest game, but hopefully just a bump in the road. Nothing that stumbles down further.
Mr. Kura,
Yes,
where
sir.
can the people find you and your final thoughts going into tomorrow?
One of the things I always have been curious about and wanting to ask an NHL player is what is a trade deadline, weekend like? It's one of those ones where you're nervous, you're on the clock and everything, and next thing you know, you're safe, or next thing you know, you're traded. I'm wondering if that's kind of setting up for a number of guys right now in that Sharks locker room as they take off for Detroit tonight. Remains to be seen, but you got to come out with a better effort than this one, and let's hope they do. It should be an interesting one tomorrow in Motown. You can find me on Twitter and the Instagram at Puckeye14, and also helping out with the with the Teal Town USA Instagram, along with AJ and Rocket. So let's hope we can get things better tomorrow.
For sure. And I am Eric Landy. You can find me using my first name and my last name on all of the social media garbages, whether that's the Facebook, the Instagram, the LinkedIn, if anybody uses that here. But no, seriously, if you haven't already, I love to chat hockey, and post some pretty artistic pictures on Instagram and stuff like that. So go take a look. And if I can get my computer to not freeze and, kind of, not be stupid, I would put the graphic up to catch us everywhere.
I got you, bud.
Oh, but Eric has it for me. Thank you, Eric.
Yep, definitely. In case you missed anything or you want to watch this again, check us out on tealtownusa.com or your favorite podcatcher, whether it's iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio. Of course, smash that subscribe button. You never know when we're going to come back on. Mainly from Monday, after I do inventory overnight, I will be on live streaming on the YouTube channel for trade deadline special, which might be the most boring trade deadline special, but we will still do it. So check us out there. And we'll see. Could there be an after dark tonight? I don't know where AJ's at right now, so we'll see about that.
All right, Eric. Well, go ahead and take us out.
Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. These guys did a phenomenal job breaking everything down for you. We'll do it again tomorrow. Until then, keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real teal. Have a good night, everyone.